All for one and one for all. I'll never catch on. The Church and the Crown, the 38th Doctor Who main range Big Finish release, first released in 4 parts across CD and download on the 28th of November 2002 and written by Cavan Scott and Mark Wright. Now, the story shows the 5th Doctor, voiced once again by Peter Davison, and he's in a little bit of a conundrum. He's travelling with his companion Peri Brown, voiced once again by Nicola Bryant, and new companion Erimem, voiced by Caroline Morris, whom they had picked up in the previous Doctor Who Big Finish 5th Doctor story, The Eye of the Scorpion. Now, the Doctor is a little bit unsure about what to do about Erimem because she has been taken out of time, and he's just wondering where he should put her back and the like. But on their way there, they end up in Paris in the year 1626. And specifically, they end up in the court of King Louis XIII of France, voiced by Andrew McKay. And Louis XIII is not exactly the nicest king, especially not to his wife, Queen Anne, who it turns out is an almost perfect doppelganger of Peri, as well as she's also voiced by Nicola Bryant as well. However, throughout the story, they also end up meeting a load of different other characters, including, as well as King Louis, also a man named Blind Maurice, a kind of con man who mainly tries to come up with other cons in order to trick people into giving him a little bit of money. I mean, he tries at first being blind, and they pretend to have leprosy, coin for the leper, or stuff like that. But also there's Cardinal Richelieu, voiced by Michael Shallard, George Villiers, i.e. the current Duke of Buckingham, voiced by Marcus Hutton, and 2 French musketeers named Delmar and Francois Ruffier, voiced by Peter John and Andy Coleman, Captain Morand, who's Richelieu's guard, voiced by Roger Kirbishley, and Queen Anne's lady-in-waiting, Madame de Chevreau, voiced by Wendy Alberson. And if you couldn't tell already by the appearance of Cardinal Richelieu, as well as the French Musketeers, this story does borrow quite a bit from the classic Alexander Dumas story, The Three Musketeers. But at the same time, they do also poke a little bit of fun at it. Like, towards the end of the story, well, actually, I'll get to that. But yeah, because it turns out, well, this is a purely historical tale, which for Erimem, I think actually is a wise choice. Having a person from a different historical period than the one they're in, it's nice to see how she reacts to the situation. But of course, the big villain they have to face is George Villiers, i.e. the Duke of Buckingham, who apparently was the first Prime Minister of England. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how valid that is, because in my mind, the Prime Minister was created in England around the time of George I, and that was mainly because he didn't speak English, so he needed someone to run the country for him because he technically couldn't. But I don't know, I mean, I might be wrong. There might actually be some historical fact behind the fact that Charles I had evidently brought in somebody else as the Prime Minister of England, and that's George Villiers. However, George Villiers, while he was mainly there to kind of keep an eye on things, now he wants to effectively invade France and take over and ultimately make France part of the newly developed English Empire. To which it's up to the Doctor, Erimem and Peri in order to find a way to stop that and put history back to rights. Now, Richelieu in this story is voiced by Michael Shallard, and he does do a really good job in this story. I do kind of wish that we could have gotten Peter Capaldi here, but then again, this was 2002, and Peter Capaldi wouldn't actually appear in Doctor Who until 2008, and wouldn't become the Doctor until 2013. So the main reason I say this is because I do know when he was announced as the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi said that at the time, when he found out he was now the new Doctor, he'd been filming in Prague, he'd been doing the BBC's adaptation of The Three Musketeers, and he was playing Cardinal Richelieu when he missed the call that he was the Doctor until he finally saw he had a missed call, called up his agent, and she went, "Hello, Doctor." Which, but... So it would have been fun, but at the same time, Michael Shillard here, he does a really good job. And while I know that Richelieu, I think, is supposed to be like the villain of The Three Musketeers, I think the Doctor does point out here that he feels that Dumas kind of unnecessarily vilified Cardinal Richelieu, and I think Richelieu is presented in a really fun way here. And I do think this is a good story to listen to. As I said, they do link back here that they are talking about the Three Musketeers. When the final climax gets going, the Doctor tries to talk to some of the Musketeers and get them to say the famous phrase. It's like, so hang on, what is it again? All for one and what? What was it? All for one and one for all. Yeah, to which, at the end of the story, when the Doctor, Peri and Erimem are departing, they decide to say it again. It's like, all for one and one for all. Man, I'll never catch on. But of course, we know it would. So I think this is a really fun story, and having come back to the Big Finish stories recently and been somewhat a little let down by a couple of them, like I didn't really get Ish. Like I understand people like it, but it just wasn't for me. So I didn't like Ish, but at the same time, I really liked The Rapture, even though I know a lot of people didn't, and I felt that The Sandman was okay, but I didn't really see much in it. But The Church and the Crown, I think, is a really fun Doctor Who Big Finish story. It's Doctor Who meets the Three Musketeers, and you know what? Sometimes that's enough. I think The Church and the Crown is a really fun one, but go and check it out for yourself, and let me know what you think. Anyway, until next time, see ya.